Hello and welcome back to OmniFoot TV. This is your host Omar speaking. Today's video is going to be a reaction to this past weekend's Premier League results. For the most part, I'm going to highlight certain results more than others, primarily due to a certain bias, because obviously I've made it clear on this channel multiple times that I am a Chelsea fan. But I'm going to try and present an objective viewpoint as much as possible, especially in regards to certain surprising results, like Brighton's. And I would argue that Spurs' result over United was also just as surprising. Now, I'll start off with the Chelsea game, primarily because that's the first thing I've wanted to talk about since the beginning of the weekend. And now, due to the fact that we've obviously lost to West Ham with a 3-goal deficit, because it really doesn't feel like we scored, despite the fact that we did, I'd like to first point out that this is a young team. This is still a young team in regards to Chelsea. A lot of fans are hyping up this period of time. They're extremely happy, they're extremely excited, and they think we're going to have a blockbuster season despite not having much to do in Europe. We don't have any kind of European competition to play at. We only have the domestic competitions. That's two cups in the league. I would argue that that would mean we'd have an easier transition due to the lack of intensity, hopefully much less injuries, because despite the fact that we're playing less games, we still have injuries. It's still a confusing factor to me. But the team is going to have a season to gel together before things can really get serious. And I'm all for that. Now, I should be much more discouraged because of yesterday's result, but I have to put it out there. West Ham played an amazing game. They did everything they had to properly. I don't care about dominating possession. I don't care about dominating the ball. I don't care about keeping the ball for as long as humanly possible. I care about the results. I care about using our chances properly. Everything West Ham did, whenever they got the ball back, was clinical. It was focused. And the first thing that caught my eye throughout the game was James Ward-Prowse. Ward-Prowse is a huge signing for West Ham. Ward-Prowse is, in my humble opinion, the best English midfielder around. I do believe that he should have gone to a bigger club, all due respect to West Ham, of course. But as soon as I saw him on the pitch for West Ham, before the game even began, I knew that we were in trouble. I knew that we were in trouble. He's got quality. He's focused. His decision making is very good. He bagged 2 assists yesterday. 2 assists. That should tell you all you need to know. That's apart from the fact that he did torment us for Southampton last season, especially the last time we faced them when they beat us in the last minute. I think West Ham are impressive. As a side, they did everything Moyes asked of them. It felt like we were playing with 10 men, not them, at a certain point in time, mind you. Which means that we still have a lot of work to do, which is expected. We have only 3 players present from last season's squad, in case anyone doesn't know. We've been selling and buying players, offloading and buying players, making sure to actually build a team, which is what we as Chelsea fans have been asking for 2 to 3 years now. So that's fair. And again, it's fair to assume that this team needs time. This doesn't mean that the ship is sinking. This just means that it is a young team, so we have to bear certain mistakes because there is an inexperience in the team. There's a certain amount of inexperience, and a certain amount of maturity must take its place. And for that to happen, we need to be patient. I've seen Chelsea YouTubers all over the place. This is disastrous. Chelsea are pathetic. Yada, 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 yada. And then going into the comment section of these videos, they're asking people to let them know whether or not the team is actually good. This is a process. This is the process that we asked for. We wanted this. Now we have to stick with it. We have to prove that we actually wanted this by sticking with it. It's circular reasoning, circular logic. It's basic. It's as basic as it can be. I watched Poch's post-match interview yesterday, and honestly, he handled it well. The mistakes that were present in the game were obviously tactical to a certain degree. The injury to Chukwuemeka, and the fact that we just had no end product. And again, that's okay. These players are in the game to prove themselves. We have to give them that chance. things like this were liable to happen. The difference between last season and this season is that despite a loss like this, we can still see a light at the end of the tunnel. We still know that the mentality is building, that things are changing, that the team is fit, that the players are improving. Look at Sterling yesterday. I had no idea the guy still had pace. These are positives we can take away from the game. Whereas last season under Potter, we couldn't take anything. All we took were the losses. The boys gave everything shtick. Now we know that there's more potential behind what's happening and that the team has to perform. So, to every other Chelsea fan out there, give them time to perform. Give them time to adapt. It's very difficult getting a certain amount of players together out of nowhere and building team chemistry out of nowhere. That does not happen. Every other team that has tried to do that in the top division has been relegated. I think it's as clear as day. Now, on from Chelsea, I'd like to highlight Liverpool. I think Liverpool need a lot of work. It's quite interesting how far they've fallen. It seems as though mentally they're not entirely as present as they should be. Despite salvaging the game that they had against Bournemouth, it just looked like Bournemouth were the better side. They gelled together more. And if not for the individual brilliance behind Liverpool's response, then things would have been entirely different. For some reason, I think I assumed that they would have patched things up by now. Used the summer to salvage whatever was left, to adjust whatever issues they had, but mentally they seem to have lost their attacking edge. They seem to have lost their competitive nature. Something is wrong in that Liverpool locker room. I don't know what it is primarily. I don't know where it started, but people are actually wondering whether or not Klopp is going to oversee the long haul to revitalize and rebuild this. Because it does seem imminent that he could actually leave the club within the next year or two. That's as far as I know. Because I remember him talking about wanting to leave in 2025 as soon as his contract expired. And I've seen that piece of news just permeate around all over the internet for the last couple of seasons. So I have to assume that there's something there. I do have to highlight Szoboszlai though. Szoboszlai, excuse me. The Hungarian is a breath of fresh air in that midfield. I'm confused as to how he signed for Liverpool, personally. And this isn't out of any bias. This is just because of how they were last season. Szoboszlai literally saved them throughout that game. I have no idea how he was convinced to join them. It seems as though they have very good negotiators, which is the impression I got during the whole Caicedo ordeal when it was us and them just butting heads to sign the player. And you have to commend them on that. But if they don't rebuild their team and revitalize their midfield, having McAllister, for example, play out of position, despite the fact that against us at the very least, he sort of managed, it's a conundrum. Like I said, it needs work, and I'm not necessarily sure if they're finished with their business in the transfer market, but I assume they'll go in for a couple more players. Just an assumption. Now, on from Liverpool, let's talk about Tottenham and United. Biases aside, Postecoglou is doing pretty well for himself. This Tottenham side, despite what they've lost in Harry Kane, seem to be a step ahead. And United seem to be completely disillusioned. They played some horrible football. They weren't awake. They weren't focused. It seems that people are starting to question Ten Hag. You have Mason Mount, who's obviously underperforming. He's starting to actually put himself under a certain amount of pressure. And that's what I said would happen. I think that's what every Chelsea fan said would happen because of such a move. Do I believe he was worth the money we sold him for? No. And I've made that clear multiple times. Is he going to perform? I don't know. I don't know what Ten Hag wants of him. I don't know what he's going to do with him. But so far, it hasn't worked. Obviously, it does need time. So I reserve judgment. But I do have to say that he seems aimless, clueless, and the team overall does too. Losing to Tottenham in such a manner, not something you can take seriously. Bearing in mind that Tottenham just lost Kane, you would expect to be able to take advantage of such a thing because they basically have to restructure their team in terms of attack. Meaning they should not have been as clinical. They shouldn't have had the chances they've had. And that's honestly all I want to say about that. Whether or not United decide that, whether or not either team actually has more business to do in the transfer market, we'll see. And last but not least, in terms of the results that really piqued my interest, Brighton. Brighton have received a ton of money throughout the last couple of transfer windows. I think the best thing Chelsea ever did for them was take Potter so that they could actually hire De Zerbi. Convincing De Zerbi to join Brighton, play such a role in the Premier League, build such a team. This is unprecedented. Brighton are going through a bit of a golden era here. And I can't help but feel like this is just the beginning as long as they keep building. Look at all the players they've lost, and yet look at how they performed. Look at how they've responded. Now, I'm not necessarily sure if they're going to maintain that consistently. But at the same time, again, this is unprecedented. I'm impressed. I am extremely impressed. The way De Zerbi has put this team together, has culturally maintained it in terms of the mentality, has instilled a culture of discipline in these players, of trust and understanding in one another. That's not easy to do. It's fair to say De Zerbi is one of the best managers in the league. The Italians have been clamoring for him to go back to Serie A, wondering why he never got a big job in the league managing one of the bigger sides. But I do think that what he did in going to Brighton was brave, and it's paying off, and it keeps paying off. Now, whether or not this side has the potential to win a trophy, I do believe that they do, especially because of how they've been performing, how I've seen them perform last season. Everyone seems interested in watching them now, even the neutrals. I see people, and they're more interested in watching Brighton than they are in any other secondary team. And I say secondary team in regards to, everyone has their first favorite team. You have these teams that you like somewhere. They fit in this chart. And by all means, it's always a good thing because the Premier League has shown me time and time again, there's always that one team that comes forth, brings itself together, ties or knits itself together out of nothing, have this glorious push, brilliant run of results, may end up with a trophy, and they kind of fall back down again. I mean, the best example we can all give is obviously Leicester, right? There's more than that, but Swansea winning the League Cup that season under Laudrup, it's fun, you know. It's fun seeing change present itself as a constant, and at the same time providing more excitement and entertainment. And that's exactly what De Zerbi is doing with Brighton. We don't know how long it'll last, and we don't know if it's going to keep going upward. But I have a very good impression of the club, of the way they run it, of the business they choose to partake in, of hopefully the way they invest the money that they have, because they've received a ton of money throughout the last 2 seasons alone. I don't know how they're going to invest it. I don't know what Tony Bloom has cooked up in that crazy mind of his, but in my opinion, at least, based on what we've seen, based on what I've seen, based on what I could derive from what I've seen from the club, they're serious, and hopefully we'll see some good investments. I think the fan base deserves it. Every fan base deserves to have that at one point in time. what makes football special. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Probably gonna do a video covering some of Serie A's beginnings because I've been waiting on Serie A to begin for a while, and I actually forgot to pay attention to the games. So probably gonna go and rewatch some of those. Anyways, again, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please press the like button. If you press the bell notifications button, you got notified whenever we upload content, because I do that on a daily basis. If you have anything to say, comment section is open for a healthy discourse. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, because apparently 95% of our viewers are not subscribed. And if you're one of the recurring viewers, go ahead and do that. Thank you once again for tuning in, and I will see you all next time the whistle blows.